I'm Van.
I'm Sorry.
That's Booby.
And Colby and Chip.
Demon Hunter.
Yeah, we got some Demon Hunter for you.
Finally, we're having a hard time finding these Christian bands.
We've listened to multiple songs that we didn't upload.
We had to nix them. We had to nix them. So this is Demon Hunter, I Will Fail You. Mm-hmm. Name of the album is Extremist. That's really interesting. That's a really interesting title for a record. So we're in Christian Week. So every song we're gonna be checking out.
The picture there kind of makes me hopeful that.
Yeah, we're gonna have some metal here.
Right.
Good Lord. So Demon Hunter, I Will Fail You, etc. Okay, so it's a Christian band. We're listening to Christian bands because this has been a big thing. People are like, how come you guys don't do Christian bands or whatever? And there's a guy from, I think, Impending Doom, the drummer.
Yeah.
I talked to him like 7 months ago.
I remember you talking to
He's like,
somebody.
yo, I love what you guys do. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
He's like, I know you're never going to review my band. I'm like, what are you talking about, family? We're going to review it this week. Yeah. This week is 7 months later. Because a week is 7 days, and there's no way to get around that. All right, let's just go. If you want to check us out in other context,
No, because this week is this week. So you are recording it this week, baby.
Watch all. If you'd like to check out timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America Vin and Soy, or
you can see our family behind the scenes at My Story Life.
All right, so this is I Will Fail You by Demon Hunter. Go.
Go.
These quiet
like that one. That's a very real and realistic look at yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're all gonna fail each other. Like, it's inevitable. Because we all sin. We're all doing stuff we shouldn't do. Like, nobody's a perfect person, so.
I talk about it all the time. People have, the concept of original sin bothers people, and they think it's destructive. And I think that there's a way to talk about it in a destructive manner, but there is a way to talk about it in an extremely healthy manner. So if you talk about original sin and you say you're nasty, you're horrible, you're disgusting, you're worthless, you're terrible, you're a pile of crap, blah, 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 right? Like, that's a horrible way to talk about original sin.
Yeah.
But if you say you and your sister and your father and your mother were born with a propensity to do wrong things and to do things knowing that you've done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And it's inevitably going to happen.
Yeah.
It puts you in a situation where you can be healthy about when you do make those mistakes. Because if you really grasp the concept, you're not going to characterize yourself as the worst thing imaginable.
Right.
And it has so many implications. I remember when I first held Dorian at the hospital and I said something to him, the details of which are between he and I and God, but I said something to him in the moment, and it was basically, I'm never going to X, Y, and Z. Well, that's not true. There are things that I said I'd never do that I did. There's ways as a father that I failed him. Now, of course, he's completely irrational because, he'll never,
Yeah.
I'm like, I just snapped at you yesterday. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, father? But I think it's so healthy to be able to, when I came to those realizations, like, all those things, things I said I never did, or did them, and because when you're young, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, I'm not going to be like that, and blah, blah. And, I said in the previous video, my dad wasn't in my life, and I made damn sure that Dorian that I'm in his life and all that. So, none of that stuff. But there's other ways to hurt your kids other than that, So, it's one of those things where I had to be like, what Jesus said to his, disciples, where, he wanted them to wait with him. But they couldn't wait with him because they fell asleep. And it said they fell asleep because of their grief. Because they were upset that Jesus is upset and something's happening. And so they couldn't watch with him.
Yep.
And so he shows up and they're fast asleep and he needs them. And he goes, couldn't you wait with me for an hour? And then he goes, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Yeah.
It's like you're limited. Like you want to do it, but you're limited by your nature, which is bent towards, And so, like, this song is crazy because, like, these are some of the things I should have said to my son in that moment when he was first born. Think about it.
Yeah.
Because, of course, I started to realize that my son had this hero complex about me. And so I went out of my way saying, no, I'm not the hero, man. What are you talking about? Like, Allah, God is the hero. Jesus is your hero, not me. Like, I'm a poor reflection of how great God is. And of course, that just didn't resonate with him at all.
No.
So now what I've said is, hey, if you think I'm good, God is better. And that he'll be like, okay. But coming to him and telling him your dad's, he fails here, here, and here, and here, it doesn't, he can't.
No, he doesn't see it.
Johan sees it. Johan will be like, you suck. But Dorian, he's not like that. So, it's me and you, right? Like, we fail each other all the time. But, there's that expectation. I have the expectation that you're going to fail. Because, the weakness of sinful nature is such that. So it makes me a lot quicker. I think it makes.
It sounds really horrible when you say it.
Right.
But I think that it ends up making it so that way you're not, if you expect if you think somebody's never going to fail you, which doesn't make any sense. Like, I think if we all sat down and thought about it, it would be like, obviously, they're going to fail us.
Right.
But if you have that mindset, like, in your heart, you keep it that then when they do fail, you have no space for them at all to make any mistakes.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're like that with yourself, though.
Yeah.
Like, you hold yourself to these crazy standards. So if you screw up on something, like, it's the end of the world. You know, and I'm like, well, sweetheart, you were born in sin. What did you expect? But you expect to be...
I don't expect to be perfect, but I expect to be a hell of a lot better than I do.
Right. Right.
Especially when it's dumb stuff like the keys are in my purse and not in the thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's not sinful.
no, but it's, you know, I
Yeah, you're
none of it.
you're extremely hard on yourself. You're extremely hard. I used to be like that too. Like, all my journals are full.
You did?
Oh yeah, my journals
How
are
did you get
full of
past
all
that?
this torment.
I didn't know you were like that.
Yeah, it was full of all this torment. I used to tell God, just kill me, you know, because I kept messing up, and it was like, I just came to a realization one day. He's like, well, I don't love you because you're performing well, and you're a sinner. And the other thing was that God showed me is like, you're worse than you think you are. There's so many things that like God hides from us about how bad we
Yeah.
are that you don't even know how bad you are. That's the thing, is that none of us knows how bad we are. So then the God's is like, you know.
Well, yeah, given certain situations, we'll do certain things that we're like, whoa, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
But we had the potential to do that all along.
Well, he was in you the whole time. The situation
exposed it.
Yeah. So I don't say that. I don't say, oh, I can't believe I did that. There's one time with that guy in the parking lot, and I was like, I knew what was in my heart, like what I wanted to do.
Yep.
And so that was like one of the last moments when I had a really, really hard time with myself, because I was like, man, I thought I had gotten away from all this propensity toward violence or whatever.
Yeah, I remember seeing you and talking to you after and stuff like that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You like, yes, you were a hero, a modern day hero, but you knew it was in your own heart, so.
Right. Allah does not love those who exceed the limits. And I definitely exceeded the limits on that guy.
Yeah, and I've never seen you like that, so
Right.
in my mind, I'm like, no, you wouldn't.
Right. Right. So that was like really the last time when I was like,
There was a situation in a parking lot where this guy was going after this woman, and he was like yelling at her and berating her and stuff, and Vin got involved, and at first he was like blaming the girl for why he was treating her that way, and then Vin was like, what? And then the guy was like, well, no, and then the guy like kind of like ended the thing because he didn't want any situations, and then they got in the car, you know. So that's kind of that's what we're talking about.
yeah, but you know, it was like,
But I was like, there's a whole freaking parking lot, and you're the only person that said anything.
right. So to the external, it looks like, oh, this guy is doing a heroic whatever, but really, it was what was happening inside of me was just very familiar in other situations when I wasn't being heroic. It was just,
Yeah.
you know, people have, you know, it's like a guy who has a propensity towards looking at a girl and you're at a beach. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it was like, I was struggling with like, oh, you have this propensity towards violence. And then here's this situation where you can justifiably, you know, satiate your desire for violence. And nobody on the outside would have thought anything of it. But I knew, and God knew what was really happening in my heart, you know?
When
So-
he says like the people on the beach thing, you're saying men, you know, some men will just like to look at a woman for what her body looks like and not seeing her as a total person.
Right.
So that you get just
Yeah, I mean,
fixated
some
by
guys
just
have
one-
a propensity for lust. Some guys
Yeah.
have a propensity for, I don't know,
Violence.
stealing, and some people have a
Yeah.
propensity for violence.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, here's a situation where you get to be righteously violent, you know, and so, you know, but yeah, being able to realize that whole discussion is so like you fail yourself. There's so many, like, there's not one person in your life that you don't fail.
right.
You know, like you fail yourself, you fail your friends, you
Yeah.
fail other people, and it's just a propensity for human weakness. And I think it's a very healthy attitude to say, you know, I was born with this type of weakness. Like it doesn't give you an excuse, but it definitely gives you an explanation for why you are the way that you are. And I think that template in Christianity is extremely convenient,
Oh, for sure.
but a lot of people don't use it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to.
A lot of people avoid it. And to me, like, that's like one of my favorite doctrines, man. Because it's so liberating. because it's like, oh, okay. And then of course you have the other side where it's like, so you need God to make you be the person that you want to be. You know, because there's that whole battle of the person that you want to be and the person that you are, and that gap, and so there's like enough grace and mercy for God in that gap to bring you there. So the same mercy that forgives you in that gap is the same mercy that's going to pull you into the next evolution of who you are as a person and make you that good person. But the crazy thing is, once you overcome that problem, then God goes, okay, here's another one. You know, and that's why he says in the song, when he says,
the very end.
well, he says, and when my sins are just a memory and your faith is restored, I will fail you to the core.
Yeah.
Because once you overcome one thing,
there's more.
Then there's another thing, and there's another way that you can, you know, you can hurt the people that you love or fail yourself or whatever. So, you know, I'm sure that this song is like an it's aimed outward, but to me, this song is like the best way to take this song is to inward, because at the end of the day, you know, when you sin, you know, you're harming yourself and you're failing yourself. There's a lot of people, especially when they start taking sin seriously and really start trying to change. It's like one of the best times to watch a person's like small growth in Christ. And it's one of those like, oh wow, like they want to change, but then it's also the most dangerous time, because they're getting their training wheels and they're gonna fall on their face immediately. So they're like, I'm gonna, you know, it had the conversation. It broke my heart with Dorian, you know, where he's trying to get things together, you know, and you know, we'll have these talks and he's like very inspired, and then he's not able to come through, and so you know, I took him for a drive because it was really getting him down, and it was heartbreaking, man, you know. And so that's always like, it's a good season for a person. They're trying to change and make those changes, but it's also like that's when they're gonna fail the most and they're gonna feel it the most, because they're trying so hard to be, you know, better.
Yep.
You know, and so it, you know, you just had to tell them. And it's kind of conversations I have when you're like, how do I whatever, and I'm like, just believe the gospel, and you get angry at me because you're like, that's too simple.
Well, no, it's not. It's that. What do you mean just believe the gospel? Like, I mean, it's not too simple. It seems too difficult, because it's like, I want to do something.
Right.
Because doing something is within my power. Like, you can't help. I feel like you can't help what you believe.
Right.
If you believe something, you believe it. Like, you know, there's no convincing Dorian that you're not the hero of the world and that you're sinless, you know? You know what I mean? Like, there's no, he just believes it. He just believes that you're perfect, you know?
Right.
So you can't convince him. Eventually, you know, he'll come into his own realities and stuff like that. But, like, belief is not something you choose. It's just something that happens. So, I don't know. Like, I obviously believe aspects of the gospel, of course. I'm a Christian.
Right.
But there are some parts of it that it's like, well, I know that there's forgiveness, but that doesn't mean I should just do whatever I want, or you know what I mean? Like, just finding that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. For me, it's just the same grace that forgives you is the same grace that's going to change you. So I just know that, okay, he's, you know, he's going to change this. I mean, he's not going to leave me in this condition. You know, but yeah, I hear you.
But in the meantime, I'm going to fail all of you. Yeah.
I mean, and you apologize and whatever, but, you know, Psalm 51 where David says, in sin did my mother conceive me. Like, he's like, you know, you already know. You know what I mean? And it's not like this lackadaisical attitude toward people that you've hurt, but it's, Quran has this interesting phrase about sin where it says that they've wronged themselves. Like, you wrong yourself. And I think the idea is kind of like Allah is so transcendent that you can't do anything to harm him because he's so high above you. Of course, the God of the Bible is not like that. You can harm him.
Yeah.
You know,
in the sense of
really intimately hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he says in Malachi, you said harsh things against me. And then the people respond, how have we said harsh things against you? And then he goes on and on. So, like, it's different, but there is a sense in which, you know, you wrong yourself. when you sin and you fail yourself. But that's a crazy line. Of that, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah.
Because like the way they did the music, it was like really epic. It was like, but then he's saying something so terrible, and I was like, whoa.
Yep.
I've never heard something like that before.
Yep. It was really good. I loved the sound of it. I loved his vocals.
Yeah,
I loved what it was singing about. It was a deep topic, and it was very real and like just very, very practical. Mm-hmm. So it was good. It got a little bit repetitive.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that because what it was saying was so meaningful to me.
I agree.
That I was fine with it.
Yeah, that bridge was crazy. I know they prey upon me. I feel them just beyond my door. And I'm assuming that's his sin. It's his things that he's been trying to escape. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
he knows that he's going to succumb to it, whatever it is in that given season. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to fail you, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So it's hard because we've dealt with a lot of people in addictions,
Yeah.
And there's one particular guy where I'm like, he had a daughter and he's got this heroin thing. And, it's like, people are like, oh man, the guy doesn't love his daughter, da 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 da. It's like, man, it's not that simple. Mm-hmm. He does love his daughter, but he's getting his ass kicked by this chemical. Mm-hmm. And he is choosing the chemical over his daughter.
Yes.
But, so I get it. I mean, but at the same time, it's like, does the guy really have the power to overcome that, So, it's just a tough, messy, bloody situation when you start getting into people's lives and the way that people's weaknesses end up. And a lot of relationships get broken because, people on the other side of it are like, well, okay, well, you figure your shit out, but you're gonna do that without me because I'm not gonna sit here and let you in. And of course, I understand that too. And everybody kind of has to make those decisions,
Yeah.
Because some of it, my mom stayed with it, and it, in my opinion, ended up killing her. Mm-hmm. So, none of these. What I love about this song is it doesn't present any simplistic solutions, right? And the Bible really doesn't give you. Bible's really good, like, this is a problem, and then it gives you will ultimately overcome when Jesus comes and sets everything to right. But in between, there's no easy answers in the Bible. There's no like, here, take this verse and call me in the morning. Like, it's a lifelong struggle and things that you have to come across. That's what I love about it.
Christians will try to take what they read from the Bible and shorten it to make a little cliche.
How to beat addiction in 3 easy steps, yeah.
To help people, but
yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate like the raw honesty of this song. Because I mean, he could even be saying this to his fans, Because this is another thing Christians like to do is that Christians don't really believe. A lot of Christians don't believe in original sin. They believe it for themselves, but for their heroes, they don't believe it. So it's like he's like, no, you should believe it. I'm gonna fail you.
Yeah. Yep.
So what a great song. I loved it. It's a 10 for me.
Me too.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd give it anything other than a 10.
Definitely a 10. Definitely, for sure.
Beautiful song. It's definitely one of those.
Keep that on the playlist.
It's a shower song for sure. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.